Greetings to everyone. Today, news from the subtle plane for the month of July. And here I am, still trying to choose a place that's quieter, as secluded as possible, so I can talk, so I can reveal the system, what's happening. And I realize that I just can't find a place wherever I go. There are a lot of people. And an impulse is a kind of system that needs to be realized at the very moment the system itself arrives. In other words, an impulse is the point where energy is released. If you release it at the right time, in the right place, there is an immediate reaction to the system itself. So, exactly what is happening around us, in fact, what I'm describing to you is what's happening right now in the subtle plane system. It's as if everything is set up to distract our attention from the tasks that really matter. At the same time, the whole system is built in such a way that it seems to us like an incredibly logical, perfectly correct solution and so on. Now I'll start explaining all the processes that are going to take place in more detail, using a clear example. I really like how they always bring people together, you know? In other words, there is nothing perfect, nothing absolutely right. There is only the truth that comes from the state of I feel. This truth can only manifest if you follow your impulse and express that impulse. And that impulse is the energy of your soul. Only then will you be able to release the necessary energy that comes from your own source. In all other cases, if you do not release the impulse of the soul, the energy will stagnate or manifest as a system or a program. That is, the impulse of the soul is a light energy that, in a sense, is both awakening and purifying. If you do not respond to the necessary impulse, then certain situations will occur at a specific moment in time. So what precisely happens is that if we do not adequately express the inherent system of the powerful impulse, this continuous and vital flow truly starts to thoroughly cleanse and purify us ourselves. You had an impulse if you are a conduit. Actually, let's even set aside the idea of conduits, okay? If you bake cupcakes, you had the impulse to make those cupcakes, but you didn't do it. This energy starts to work with you, bringing up certain types of programs that affect your state, that is your vibration. You think that at this moment you are lowering your vibration. In reality, at this moment, the frequency of your vibration is actually increasing. And from this point on, a release begins, that is, pain starts to rise to the surface. Why is this system set up and structured this way now? Also, after the solstice, a stream of high vibrational light energy came in. You know, as I'm telling this, I'll continue in a moment, but do you know why I'm smiling? When we hear that such energy is coming in, our immediate assumption is that we're all about to become blissful and that all our problems will be solved right away and so on. Well, yes, that's true, but this only applies to people who have already been working on themselves. All those who haven't worked on their consciousness, who have only listened and gathered information, these people will, let's say, experience certain sensory special effects with their consciousness and feelings, because the fields of sensitivity are expanded. I feel differently, become aware differently, see differently. July is characterized on a subtle level by a shift in values. I start to appreciate what I used to ignore because of the victim program. In other words, programs are being clothed. What do you mean by programs, right? These are the special effects of your real life, which manifest as the way your attention gets drawn into this game. In other words, something happens in your life and your attention gets carried away into this game, making you think that this is what needs to be solved right now, thereby diverting your focus from your true spirit, disconnecting from it, and immersing yourself in the problem. July is quite psycho-emotional. For many, the shaking of the field will be simply fantastic. but it will be more internal, not external, So everyone will have some kind of little problem, let's call it that, which will draw their attention away, and this will unsettle them. So July and August are energies that awaken the spirit. There are real live sounds here. People are living, enjoying themselves. It's wonderful. There you go. It distracts from what I want to tell you. You see, right now, only those individuals who can truly keep their focus, who can keep their attention firmly fixed on their ultimate goal will be able to effectively go through this energy process. For what precise purpose? It is, in essence, a kind of filtering stage. In other words, it is actively filtering out the consciousness that is not yet entirely ready to move forward. What does not ready mean? It means not tracking spiritual lessons, losing focus when the mind can't concentrate on its task. Right? Immersion, emotional ups and downs. That is, you get caught up in the emotional swings and don't realize that it's happening. As a result, this state separates you from your spiritual side. Moving on, for the most part, July will put pressure on your psyche. In other words, your consciousness will be unsettled. But that doesn't mean you have to give in to it. I'm only talking about certain energies that affect the subtle plane, for example, the mental and astral planes. These two planes will be especially pronounced. And if you can't keep your energy at the luminous frequency of gratitude and love, and instead slip into anger, hatred, and other low frequency states, you'll simply get caught up in it and your frequency will drop. That's all. In other words, it's like, if you didn't pass this time, you'll get another chance next time. So go back and repeat what you haven't learned, what you haven't realized, become aware. Learn, repeat. And you'll reach the point you meant to reach. Moving on, programs of justice will be activated. So what will trigger people? The truth, and for the truth, and for each of your own soul, the so-called lesson of pride will be actively manifested in the system. Why? The most important, let's say, trigger, the main point of awakening is coming out of oblivion. Coming out of oblivion means I am aware of everything happening around me. Everything is one. Everything comes from me, but not everything is me. I do not divide. I give everything its place in this world, and I simply feel good. That is, it doesn't matter how much knowledge you have, how well you know all these systems of spiritual, let's say, laws, right? But if you live by this principle, then you will, so to speak, be on top. But if your principle is that of a victim, all people who live by this principle will be revealed in July through a system of psychological changes. So if you have a victim mentality somewhere inside you, and look, a victim isn't just some toxic person or someone who complains. No! There are other types of victims, more, as I call them, highly spiritual ones, who sacrifice their bodies, their health for the enlightenment of others, who carry others on their shoulders. You might be an accomplished teacher of some sort, right? But you're carrying people who don't want to move forward, who aren't ready yet, you see? And you try to motivate them, you try to cheer them up, you try to get them interested you doing a good deed, but not for yourself. But the system of love comes from wholeness, from the integrity of your own structure. When a person themselves understands what is valuable to me, what value exists within me, you see, and then we have a point of connection, not separation. As soon as we direct our attention to external systems, to other people, to things that distract us and seem supposedly important, you immediately disconnect from your own source and start, so to speak, sinking into negativity. July is notable in that, let's say, it can feel a bit depressing for some people who haven't become aware. not for everyone. Guys, I know that many of you who listen to me are very enlightened people who have understood, become aware, and grasp various aspects, and are watching this video just to get some personal insight. And, I do the same because a different perspective, a different angle of view allows you to broaden your own spectrum. That is, someone says a certain word and your own vision expands. In other words, you don't see how this person, just through that word, through that path, through that essence, expands your own meaning. That's it. So, July, attention is being diverted and will continue to be diverted by shaking up the field. What do they do first? They divert your attention so that you focus next. They lower the frequency due to the shaking of the fields. And the third stage, if you haven't realized and understood, then you'll simply, let's say, have to retake the test in the next round. July has already divided us into categories. That is, in July, a certain division already took place, but the filtering process is not yet complete. Those people who experienced changes last month or this month, that is, if you felt, so to speak, new turns in your life, if something has indeed changed, some new beginnings, please don't downplay even something like new sneakers that you couldn't afford before, because it's not just about material things, it's all energy. And if you were able to channel and let this frequency through in the form of new sneakers, it will attract subsequent systems of the same vibration. For example, travel, sports, or something else. In other words, any system, any new turns that were set in motion during these periods will continue until the end of July. Will have a progression, including negative ones. There is also a particularity for those who did not pass the test for authenticity. June was testing us for authenticity, for our true essence, for the authenticity of our relationships, for the authenticity of our intentions, for the authenticity of our values. So if you passed those tests, if you stayed with that person, kept that knowledge, and understood your direction, yes, your path, if you realized all of this and remained true to these values, but still find yourself sinking into some negative aspects, then the lesson hasn't been fully learned yet. The next stage of July is sacrifice. That is, memories, feelings, or situations may be brought up for you, especially through the body, most often through the body, where you will feel your own sense of victimhood. Or, you see, even the thunder is rumbling. Unbelievable. But I haven't recorded it yet. There are so many sounds coming from everywhere. It's just truly fantastic. And through all of this, they're telling me that I still need to move forward. In other words, you still have to do it. You'll be distracted, but you'll need to get it done. This will be the main tests, the so-called frequency shift, the filter you'll have to pass through. Those who, let's say, get distracted and think, I'll just finish this show and then I'll definitely start, know that you've already gone off track. I had to hit record at the table because the noise was even louder, honestly. I couldn't even hear myself here. When you unfortunately slip into the victim mindset, it absolutely doesn't mean that you've permanently dropped in your vibrational frequency. Instead, it truly means that you currently have a particular kind of limiting belief system or a restrictive pattern of thought. But the good news is that you can definitely and effectively get out of it and move forward. And to get out of it, you need to become aware to realize that you are actually taking on that posture. This is for everyone who turns on their inner saboteur about anything at all. This is for everyone who puts things off until tomorrow or the day after. This is for everyone who feels completely out of sorts inside but tries to show on the outside that they're super cool and everything is fine. So here, this program will lead us to the truth. July is all about truth. The main frequency of July is truth. That is, we will have certain situations that will put us into a system, not of victimhood, not of guilt. Like when you did everything honestly, but you're accused of not being honest. You did the job well, but people will tell you that you didn't. You did everything exactly as you were asked, precisely, but then you're told that's not what you were asked to do. Why did you do that, right? So there will be this point of disconnection. Those who are able to connect with their inner essence, yes, and move away from this point of the world's injustice, meaning without creating excess potential. Because July is precisely about releasing all excess potentials. So those people who at certain moments had these so-called blocking energies, right? That is created by excess potential, this code will be removed through the victim program. What does it mean to remove this code? A situation happened, you fell into the victim position, but you realize that you are no longer that victim at all, that you are a completely different person now. And in general, this has nothing to do with you anymore. Maybe you used to be like that once, but now you are a completely different person and you no longer react that way at all. And this whole game just doesn't interest you anymore. When you move from these points to other points, the program will close. But if you keep sinking into it and quietly suffering, then accordingly, nothing will work out. What is this needed for? This is the only thing that separated us from our spiritual part, from our higher self. What is separation? So we say that all of us have a higher self. We all have it. But there are people who do not hear their intuition, their feelings, their heart, and live according to programs. At the same time, they're convinced that they are not living by a program, so they will try to convince you that you are the one living by a program, and they're not. So how can you tell if a person is living by a program or not? They will insist that they are right, that they know how things should be, and that no one else does. In reality, knowledge, each soul has its own code of knowledge. It is a certain energy that is contained in your soul. That is the accumulation of so-called experience and knowledge. And each of you is capable of bringing forth and expressing those very axioms that are needed in this space. In other words, there is no one who knows everything correctly, do you understand? There is only someone who will highlight for you what you have forgotten, or open doors you have been knocking on for a long time. That's it! The rest is up to you. And so the victim program, the 3D consciousness system was based on it, and people, let's say, would get caught up in certain states and energies. Now, a chance is being given, but it's given to those who will move forward, not to those who will just lie there and suffer, you understand? So, to sum up everything I've said, July will bring about honesty. First and foremost, honesty with yourself. How honest are you with yourself? How much do you really treat yourself and others honestly? All the truth will be brought to light. Then, through the truth, through certain accusations, people may be drawn into low-frequency programs on purpose to stir up the field. It's not an uncle, not an aunt. It's not even the person with whom you got involved in these programs. It's simply the work of energies and the release of excess potential. In other words, it's the balancing of the field. July is about balancing and harmonizing the field. But the way, yes, the manner in which this happens, that's what I'm talking about right now, right? To truly exit the victim system, it requires achieving genuine honesty within yourself. This involves a deep understanding of precisely what is happening, how it is occurring, and exactly why it is taking place. It is crucial to fully comprehend these aspects and then consciously choose not to get involved. Moving on, the so-called laziness program will come up. Here, it's very important not to follow it. It's absolutely crucial as much as you can understand and imagine you will feel. My God, I have all the elements gathering here. You can't even imagine. I hope you can hear me, but I need to finish what I'm saying. I need to. I'm being shown here how a person truly desires to go to the vast open sea, perhaps to find peace and relaxation, but in reality, they urgently need to place some important order, or they absolutely have to work diligently to fulfill their responsibilities. But it's like they're being split into two parts. This division is where the lessons are learned. That's thunder. For whoever is asking, that's thunder. It splits you into parts. So it will feel like you're being torn apart. And in this tearing, that's where you'll be searching for the truth through your own honesty. That's it. So if someone accuses you of something, but you really did everything as it is, if someone tries to infringe on you in some way, the main thing to understand here is I am honest with myself. But if certain emotions are triggered in you in this context, you need to deal with them. That is, don't run away, don't hide, but figure out why this is being triggered in me. The body will still be involved for those who have problems with the skeletal system. The body will still be involved. This victim system is actually based in the spine, the lumbar region, the chest. Welcome to the club, right? So this is just what it is, and there's no need to be afraid or embarrassed about it. It simply exists, and you need to work with it. If you can't handle it on your own, reach out to those who know how to help. In other words, don't just sit with it, don't be afraid, don't hide, don't run away from yourself. Just, oh, well, that's it. The last element is activated, the rain is starting. So immerse yourself as much as possible in your own system. Otherwise, all these programs will just end up destroying you, and you'll suffer, be afraid, worry, and think that something's wrong with you again. You've entered the transition, and do you see how the conditions were prepared for me? I found a roof right away. That's how smoothly everything works, you see? Absolutely wonderful. There you go. All right. Friends, I hope everything is clear. If something wasn't fully explained, write your questions. An unbelievable storm is starting here. Thank you for your attention, for writing, for your comments. I always read them and take them in. Share, don't hold back, because your opinion is very valuable. Every message is like a light that fills and expands, and in that light, you begin to shine to the fullest. You see, this is the most important thing we can give each other life. And here's the main thing. July is not about laziness or stopping. Here, only those who start doing something with their body, with their mind, who write new projects, who change their worldview, will make it through the filter. And how do we change our worldview? Traveling, we go somewhere, we do enter into some new systems. We in July is a system of energies when you need to start moving forward. Those who get started will see good results. Those who stop and make excuses like, oh, I don't feel well right now, oh, I need to relax. No, this energy isn't about that. Yes, you should, let's say, not overexert yourself. So this isn't about the kind of energy where you have to rush headlong. No, it's not about that kind of activity. Here, you need to start moving, not putting off your energy, but actually pushing it forward, because there will be a certain energy of laziness, fatigue, drowsiness, relaxation, let's say emptiness in your head. And it will be hard to gather your thoughts, you see? July is when you want to say something, but you already can't remember what it was you wanted to say. So what is happening here? It's happening because old neural pathways are being switched off. So those people who have changed their dimensionality, who have reconnected, will experience a sense of memory loss, yes. Memory loss and the loss of sensations. Your eating habits and tastes will change. Follow the change in your taste preferences. Follow the change in your image. Follow the change in your states. In other words, don't hold on to the energies you used to live in. All of this will happen gradually. But if you stick to your old way of life, certain patterns will start to surface, so to speak, which will lead you to the truth of your spirit, to your own truth, to the energies that truly make up your soul. In other words, you will be stripped down so that you can see who you truly are, not who others are used to seeing you as, and not the impression they have created about you. Well, now we are definitely wrapping up our video. Thank you. That's all. Write to us for now.